Hi, I'm Rachel, and today I'll show you how to create a shiny effect on metal or glass using the Color Therapy app. Shiny objects differ from shaded objects in that they have a harsh white highlight and darker lines. Shadows tend to be more fuzzy, so keep that in mind when deciding the level of shine you're looking for. I also recommend looking at a shiny object as a reference to see how the lighting is cast on it. If you want to follow along with the same image I'm using, you can find it under the Classic tab, scroll over to Hobby, and under Coffee Lover, it's the second image. As you can see, I've already finished coloring in a lot of this image. So first off, begin by coloring in everything that you want first, and then you'll do the shiny objects. First, I'll show you how to create this shiny mug right here. So what you want to do is open up the color palette. Under the Essential palette, there's one called Colorful. Make sure it's set to solid and choose that dark navy blue. And all we're gonna do is tap to fill, so make sure it's set to the basic pencil, and you're just going to tap to fill the mug. To make the mug look like it's round and has a shiny gloss to it, let's go ahead and open up the color palette, choose a basic black and white under the basic palette. That will be for our highlights and for the lowlights. So now we want to select advanced mode with our pencil, open up that toolbox, click on AIRBRUSH. Let's make the size down to about 15 because it's a really small object. And let's make the opacity about 80%. Before you start, make sure your coloring in the lines mode is set to on, and just start making a light shadow on the left side of it as well as the far right side. And you can slowly blend it into the middle just barely. I also would add a shadow inside that mug. And then for the highlights, click on the white and open up the toolbox. This time it needs to be opacity to 100 and size 0. So what I'm gonna do is just make a line from the top of the mug to the bottom. And now I'm gonna make it a little bit darker so it looks really shiny, and I'm gonna add a little dot next to it. And you can blend it out just a little bit. You can also add a little highlight at the top right there, and at the lip right there as well. Now let's color a silver kettle that's shiny. So open up the color palette again and choose metal under nature 1. So choose the metal palette and just choose a neutral gray color. Make sure that the pencil is set to basic and just tap to fill in the entire kettle, and this is going to be the foundation. Now we're going to repeat the same exact steps that we did for the mug with the black and white. So open up the toolbox, make sure it's set to advanced, and with the airbrush tool we'll set it back down to 80 again, and the size at 15. Start with the black, and I'm going to zoom in a little bit more, and I'm going to basically just outline very carefully the far left side, and it's going to go around the spout just like that, as well as the far right side. Now, I've looked at a reference of a kettle, a silver kettle, to see how the highlights and shadows would look. So what I'm gonna do is make a very straight line in the middle. Something to remember, when your object is round like a kettle, your lines are going to curve outwards, okay? So the very middle will be straight up and down, and then your lines will curve very slightly. Now I want some more detail lines that are very precise, so I'm gonna make the opacity to 100 and the size down to 0. And I'm gonna go right back over those lines so that they look really precise. And then there's gonna be a slight shadow right underneath the lid at the top and a little bit at the bottom too. We also have a shadow underneath the spout. Now choose the white, and this is gonna be a process of working back and forth. So I'm gonna make a bright highlight straight down the middle and add a few lines around that. It's gonna be a little bit fuzzy because it's a pretty bright light, we're gonna pretend. And I'm gonna add a bright dot here and there. The more steady your hand is, the better for this. And I'm gonna continue adding just very light highlights. Now what you can do is select gray, that gray again, and go back and add in some gray, and maybe you can take away and just fade some of those lines a little bit so it looks a bit softer in some areas. Here's the finished version of my image after I removed the lines. Placing white next to a dark color can really help to make a texture look glossy. You can experiment with different amounts of gloss on objects by changing the opacity. Thanks for watching our tutorial. You can get the Color Therapy app for free on the app.